Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Mitchell, CEO and founder of Stephanie Mitchell Media. I'm a graphic designer. Thank you so much for tuning into the Stephanie Mitchell Media podcast. Here with me today, my guest is Meredith Nunnally. She is the owner of Graze Charcuterie. So, thanks so much for joining us, Meredith, and I'll let you tell a little bit more about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. My name's Meredith. I own Graze Charcuterie Company in Huntsville, Alabama. The company's about a year old. I offer grazing charcuterie boards, and I deliver them to North Alabama, mostly Huntsville and Madison. In addition to that, I do a bunch of events, large grazing tables, corporate events, weddings. I also offer charcuterie classes at the wine cellar and some other local venues. They're a ton of fun. And I have a Cheese of the Month club. We do all kinds of different tastings at the wine cellar. So really just have my hands in a lot of stuff right now.
That's really cool. So what got you into charcuterie?
So I've always loved charcuterie, which is weird because I grew up in Alabama. It wasn't really a common thing, but I love like canned Vienna sausages and stuff like that. So, as I got older, I just, tried to buy things when I could afford it. And I started like eating prosciutto all the time. And I just over time became like obsessed with that culture and cheese and meat. And my kids love it. We, kind of have our own little grazing lifestyle at home, just from sun up to sundown. We just munch and stuff all the time. We have family meals as well too, but it's just so much easier with the kids to give them a little plate and let them dig into whatever they want. So I decided, maybe I should try to do this for a living. I have a good bit of restaurant experience from being younger and working, at Outback or IHOP or things like that. And I always really enjoyed that. So I kind of just meshed the two together and came up with it.
That's so great. And probably that grazing kind of way of eating that you mentioned, that's probably a little bit healthier than just having three heavy meals a day, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
For me, I just kind of nibble throughout the day. So I'm not really eating an extraordinary amount of food, but what I'm eating is like healthy nuts, meats, cheese, fruits. So it does help. And I mean, it's good for like my fiance, he's diabetic. So that lifestyle change has really helped a lot for him, and it can help, it can help a lot of people. It levels my kids out. So then they don't have like extreme highs and lows, like from a big carb meal or being really starving and waiting for dinner at the end of the day.
that's so huge. So there are also health benefits to your business, right? And so um so you do so much. How do you keep everything balanced? You mentioned your kids, your fiance. How do you do it all?
That's a really great question. I sometimes don't know myself. It has been a really big challenge to keep everything under control. I've had to take a few steps back over the past few months and say no to a few things. So really just learning when to say no, and when I can take on certain things is really the biggest thing that I'm having to teach myself every day to do, because I just want to say yes to everything. I want to take every event. I want to take every board and do all that stuff. But I also have kids. I am a full-time mom, so that does interfere. Hopefully we're going to be getting somebody hired soon because we are spinning our wheels a little bit over here with how busy we have been, which is I'm so blessed about it. So for now, it is a day-to-day. I have to check every single thing I'm doing and recheck it to make sure I don't forget anyone, or don't forget to go to the store, or don't forget to buy my products, or post an event, make sure the ticket link's available. There's so many components. It's wild.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Events are huge. I have a background in waitressing and I've done some catering stuff and I know that that's it's a lot of work. Um, so and just business side of running a business is a lot too. So that what you
Yeah,
mentioned about, yeah, learning to say no. It's so hard, but I think that's the only way to be truly successful. Because if we say yes to everything, we can't possibly do all of it. So yeah, I'm glad that
absolutely.
you mentioned that. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one. Because I'm a yes person. I've always pushed myself to the extreme to say yes. And so changing that point of view is definitely beneficial, but it has been hard, difficult to do.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you say, what is your favorite type of event to, do you call it catering or what do you call it when you bring your charcuterie goods to an event?
Yeah, so yeah, some people refer to me as a caterer. I do offer things that go along with catering, like drink service and stuff like that. I'm a little bit different than a caterer because all of my stuff is served cold. So the caterers have to have a little bit extra regulation on like their food permit and things like that. And I
Mhm.
don't have to have that at this point. Eventually, I would love to serve hot food as well. And as far as my favorite type of event, I mean, I just love them all. I love making the tables. It is so much fun. Every single time I do it, it doesn't get old. I'm scared in the beginning, and is this going to come together? And by the end, it's gorgeous, and everybody's like, "Ooh, ah," and it's just so rewarding. I would have to say I like corporate events better because they're a lot more laid back than say a bride because that's her big day and she wants it to be perfect. So there's a little bit added stress in a wedding because you really don't want to mess that up. And I don't want to mess up anything, but you know, the mental game we play with ourselves, when it's imperative to not mess up, you're like, oh gosh, this is when I'm gonna mess up. So I would say I love to do catering events. The other things I love to do are my tasting events because when I was growing up around here, I just always, you know, we had a token sushi restaurant. It was a little shack, and we really didn't have. We had Korea House, but we really didn't have much in the way of like diversity food wise locally. And
Mhm.
so growing up, I was always feeling like I wanted more. I wanted more, and so now, you know, especially with our Asian food options that we have locally, we've come a long way. It is so amazing to have so many great options now. Um, and I'm trying to push more into the charcuterie and making different types of charcuterie meats and cheeses available locally. So maybe people will be more familiar with that growing up around here than I was.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up here, so I'm not really familiar with, yeah, what was here and what wasn't, obviously, but can you find the ingredients for your boards pretty easily, or do you have to order those online? How does that look?
So we do have a couple of brands locally that are available, like Boar's Head. There's a few other higher end brands like at Whole Foods and Kroger that you can get a hold of. But it's just standard, typical hard salami, sopressata, those kinds of things, and they've just kind of generically been commercially made. Yeah, yeah. So we do have access, a lot more access now than we did certainly when it was just Bruno's and Star Market on Highway 72. So you can get some really good cheeses locally from like Murray's Cheese Shop or Whole Foods. And that's great. I do use those cheeses on my boards. I'm looking to bring more stuff locally that we cannot get right now. So there's a really
Mhm.
cool place called Charlito's Cucino. They have amazing, amazing meats. Smoking Goose is also really, really delicious. I believe Domain South features some of their meats. So really, I'm just pushing to get a hold of more of those meats and bring them locally so that my customers can purchase them from me locally, kind of like a meat brokerage service.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you teach classes. You mentioned that you teach the classes. How often Do you have those? I think you said they're at the wine cellar. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so much fun. We do different themes. Sometimes we'll do girls' night, we do date night. We'll do like an Easter class or something like that. At the end of last year, we were doing them very regularly. I teamed up with Honeybox of Huntsville so that we could bring those classes to Huntsville and Madison. And they've been wildly successful. They're always so much fun. We also do pairings with beer, like at Bowler Hat Brewery. They have amazing beers, and so we love to pair our cheeses with them. The classes are super fun because you basically have all the food that you need to eat. You get several different tastings of wine or beer. We also do jams and jelly classes as well for the alcohol-free folks. But they're super fun. You get to learn how to, make salami roses and cut kiwi in fun ways. And you can arrange your boards. You can eat them while you're working, or you can take them home with you to show off to your family. But yeah, they're really fun. We've slowed down on doing them a little bit, only because we have been busy on the weekends, and that cuts into being able to do events for our clients. But we do have some coming up. We've got a couple in May, one on the 14th and one on the 21st. And then we're doing one with Honeybox again at Bowler Hat Brewery in Madison. And that is going to be on the 16th. So we're trying to get more up, but we're again having staffing issues.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and all of that stuff you were mentioning sounds really creative. The roses, cutting the kiwi a certain way. I've seen the tables that you come up with on social media. You're really good at making reels and posting videos. Those are outstanding. I've never seen such cool looking charcuterie. Yeah, I've never seen that kind of creative flair brought to it. Like I've seen some creative stuff, but not on that scale of just like the way you
Thank you
arrange the
so much.
table. Yeah,
Thank you
you're
so much.
welcome.
I love hearing that. It's so amazing when somebody says, "Oh, that's art," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing that somebody calls it art," because I just love doing it. It's really cathartic for me when I'm making a table, and I feel like it's just so quiet and serene, and I just enjoy it so much. So when people tell me they like it, it's like icing on the cake. It just can't get any better.
Yeah, that's so exciting. How long does it typically take you to set up a table like that, like for a corporate event or a wedding?
So depending on how many people it is, typically around 2 hours. If it's a small, 50 and under is more like an hour and a half. But yeah, around 2 hours. So I have to lay down all the paper. I have to arrange if there's foliage or centerpieces. And then, from there, that takes the bulk of the time, I would say, just because I move and remove and look around and, oh, I don't know if that looks good there or whatever. But yeah, 2 hours is basically, where the number is. I would love to get that lower, just so that, I can be more efficient. But I'm just not sure really at this point how to do that.
Yeah, because that's just a lot of labor. It's design labor and all the mental energy and everything that goes into it, and you're doing it all by yourself. So I would say that's actually pretty quick but you're doing it all by yourself. So I totally see that's just a lot. So do you have any kind of, I think you mentioned that you have some creative background and knowledge and training. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so before I became a mom, I was in internet marketing. I kind of joined that world right at the cusp of the big boom on pay-per-click advertising. I started out as like a little secretary at a local trade school. And when I found out that people paid to click on things on the internet, I was stunned and so intrigued. And within months, I took over their entire marketing program. And from that point, I moved to St. Louis and worked at an agency as a director in search engine marketing and search engine optimization. I loved doing that. It was an amazing opportunity and experience. And I ended up moving to Fort Worth, where I took on another position, a couple of positions there actually. And I enjoyed my time there and decided I wanted to become a mom. So I came back to Alabama to do that because I was most comfortable here. And I've always loved marketing. And I feel like, you know, it helps to have an understanding of, like, a basic understanding of it. If you're starting a business, the social media side is a lot more challenging for me, just because, you know, it's like Google algorithm times infinity, and you just can't get through it, even if you are relevant, which, you know, I always had a handle on Google, but Facebook and Instagram, they give me the shaft, and I don't really know how to break in there. So it's a constant, you know, game that I'm playing.
Yeah, I mean, they're changing the algorithm all the time, and I know that's intentional, but it does feel like a guessing game that we're trying to fight the algorithm. So I don't blame you.
Yeah, and it just doesn't. I was going to say, it just doesn't make sense. So, you know, I understand how the algorithm works, and like, for example, on TikTok, you know, I can have like a 10% conversion rate from views to likes, and they still give the shaft, and it's like, wow, okay, all right,
Yeah.
keep it moving. I will try with my next video.
It can be
So,
slow
yeah,
moving on
it's
TikTok.
daunting, for sure. It is very, very slow moving on TikTok. When I first launched, Instagram was hitting real hard, but it's just gone by the wayside for me now, and I'm just pushing to get out there.
Do you ever do you teach any charcuterie classes virtually, or do you just have enough of a demand in person that that's really not necessary?
Actually, there's a huge demand online, which is something that I've been exploring. I've had people reach out from different states, in Atlanta and Nashville, wanting to do virtual classes. So that is definitely something that we will be doing in the future. It's just a matter of getting it set up and getting a time for it.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So, what is the thing that you would say, like, out of all the things that you do with um, Graze Charcuterie Company, that most people would hate, but that you really enjoy?
Let me think. Well, that's a toughie. I mean, I would say the work. You know, when you find something that you enjoy doing, it's not work anymore. And the people that are looking in at me think that I'm working so hard. And it's because I am working from the time I wake up until I go to bed, but it's not work. It's just so enjoyable. You know, even when I'm scared to death that something's going to go wrong, I still, like, it's just so much fun, and just so rewarding. So I would say that the work, because it is a lot of work. You know, it's hours and hours of prep time. It's hours of planning, hours of purchasing products, you know, measuring, portioning, all of that. It is a lot of just work. And a lot of people don't want to do that work, you know, that's fine. That's their own prerogative. They might want to be at the boss delegating from the top down. That's fine. But I love it. So I would say that's what it is. I just love the work.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can see that you're very passionate about it, but there's still hard days, right? There's always, even with things that we love doing, there's always the hard days, and there's the I don't know, people that are difficult to deal with. How do you kind of manage that you know, the interpersonal side of things where a conflict arises, or you seem like a very easy person to work with, so how do you kind of manage those situations?
So I try to take everything on a case by case basis, of course. You know, I typically take the attitude of the customer is always right in any scenario, up until a point of being abused, of course. But so, for example, there was a time, it was either right at the end of last year or the very beginning of this year, everything was going nuts. the holidays were wild. I was doing several classes a week, and I completely dropped the ball and forgot to make a board that somebody had ordered and paid for already. And I was supposed to meet them on a Sunday morning up at the wine cellar to drop off. This was before I had moved in to the wine cellar. And she called me at 10 o'clock and was like, hey, I'm at the wine cellar and ready to pick up my board. And I was in Madison sleeping, and it was just horrible. But what I did was I just apologized profusely. I was like, I am so sorry. I absolutely dropped the ball on this. And all you can do is take accountability for what happened. It's mortifying. It's mortifying for me to tell you that this even happened, because that is, a crazy thing for me to do. But yeah, really, I just said, I am so sorry. I have 100% dropped the ball here. What can I do to make sure that this is better? Do you still want the board? I will meet you anywhere. I'll deliver it to you, whatever you need. And she was really nice about it. She said, the way you've handled this, I have no problems at all. We're good from this point forward. And I was so thankful that it turned out to be someone like that, and not someone who wanted to go onto the internet and blast me for that, because I am a small business. So that's really scary, getting, internet comments. Really, just whenever you have diversity, you just have to take accountability, and or at least that's my mantra. And just try to figure out any kind of solution.
I agree with that. It sounds like you handled that great. And I make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and it's that accountability piece that sets you apart from, I don't know, people who want to just pretend like it didn't happen, or like it was actually the customer's fault. Like, oh no, you scheduled for a different time. It's like,
right. I was going to say, I've actually had customers who have, just downright lied about certain things. One person told me that their box was infested with ants after I delivered it. And it was a gift from someone else, but we know that the box was picked up 5 minutes after it was delivered. So in that case, it's just like, I am so sorry about that, and I will do whatever I can to replace that for you. There's no sense in arguing with them, because if they're having a rough time in their life, they may be acting like that, and that may not be their normal personality anyways, which was, I think, the case in that scenario. Her family members had recently passed, so that was a hard thing to deal with. But I don't want to treat her poorly about it. And I don't mind giving out a box for free if somebody needs it or wants it. That's okay. As long as it's not all the time, then I'm okay with giving that up every once in a while.
It sounds like you're a very compassionate person, and you extend that to others in your business, which I admire a lot. That's a really great value that you have. So what are it sounds like your goals moving forward is you're maybe looking to hire some more staff. Where do you see this all kind of going within the next year?
Yeah, so hopefully I will be able to get some staff in here. That's a hard thing in itself too, because I want to maintain that control, but I have to let it go. So hopefully that, and we're eventually going to open up this Graze house to the public, and you'll be able to come in, and we'll have some things for you to munch on. You can order different products. We'll have products for you to browse through while you're here. We're going to have a lot of local honeys and local jams and things like that, and basically all things that you can graze on. So that hopefully will be happening really soon, within the next few months. And then I would say, just from there, the possibilities are endless. I'm trying to just keep it moving. We've got a lot of these little charcuterie companies popping up locally.
Oh, really? Oh, because is Honey Box, is that one, or what do they do? I heard you mentioned them, and I've seen them on social media.
Yeah, Honey Box, she is a part-time charcuterie person. She does it, just as a side hustle, totally for fun. She loves to do it. She's a great person. She loves to support local. She's awesome to do classes with. She kind of is like the yin to my yang. So we really hit it off together a lot. And then yeah, there's several other companies. I mean, it's like every week I find a new company. Honeybox was actually around before I was. So she started, I don't know, maybe 6 months ahead of me or so. But yeah, she's doing great. And you know, there's just charcuterie. Everybody wants it right now. So she's doing amazing. Yeah. She's got some mommy and me classes coming up, which are really fun. Because you get to do it with your kids, right? And the kids love to do stuff with their parents, especially with food. So that's really fun.
Yeah. So you mentioned that charcuterie was not really a thing, kind of growing up in Alabama. What do you think? You think that's because I don't really remember seeing it much or ever really growing up. At least it wasn't called that. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and I didn't really see it either. So do you think it's kind of just exploded in the last maybe 5 to 7 years, or is it just sort of is it a cultural thing? What do you think?
Yeah, I think culturally it has had its place, not in America. But it's definitely had its place in Spain, France, Italy, things like that for generations. With us, I think part of the catalyst was probably the keto craze, because everybody started eating meat and cheese all the time. And then it was like, you know, we get my little bento box and, oh, it's cute. And, oh, we can make it even cuter. And, you know, meat and cheese just kind of caught on. And I think for the longest time, a lot of people were told that eating things like that is bad for you, for your cardiovascular system and things like that. When in reality, it's just don't eat too much of it. Keep it in moderation and you'll be okay. And so I think maybe we're kind of like, oh, stick it to the man. I'm eating this meat and cheese now. And then the keto people, you know, they're like meat and cheese. And I think it just kind of segued from there. And now, you know, with Instagram culture and everything like that, you know, just a beautiful spread is something everybody wants to have, because, you know, centerpieces and flowers and all that stuff was great, but it's had its time. And now we need a big table of food for everybody to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because I say, you know, camera eats first. You know, we all want to take a picture of something that looks good and post it. And that's really interesting what you mentioned about the diets, keto dieting. I didn't realize that this has been going on, the charcuterie boards kind of culture in European culture for a long time. Have you traveled to some of those places that you mentioned, or how did you find out about that?
No, I have not. I do come from a family of travelers, though. So I get my cultural experiences from them. And then, you know, I just generally try to keep myself, you know, somewhat educated about outside countries and just people in general. One of the things when I was younger that my dad loved to do was take us to the Greek festival. He always forced us to try new things, even if we didn't want to at the time. But I'm so grateful for that, because if it wasn't for that, then I would not have the want to explore those things. And for me, eating food is a big way to connect with people in their own cultures. So that's really important for me. And yeah, I do try to like research as much as I can. Like I want to find the little tiniest place inside Italy whose grandfather has been hanging a prosciutto for the past 3 years, because I want to eat that. So eventually I will be taking tours over there, especially food tours, and hopefully I can bring back some really good stuff for everybody here.
That would be really neat. I love to travel. I don't get to do it as much as I would like to, but that's definitely a goal and something I have done in the past too. So, sounds like you really pull all of your research and things like that into elevating your company to what it is. And so, all of the business things aside, what I would like, what defines you as a person? What do you like to do for fun? I mean, I know you said you're working all day. What are some of your hobbies if you have any time for them?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I have a ton of hobbies. I would say like I just find interest in a lot of things. I love to fish, which is funny, right? I probably don't come off as that type of person, but I love to fish. I love to be outdoors. I love to go kayaking. Um, I love music. One of my favorite things to do is just take a stroll in the car with my music as loud as possible and singing it out loud as loud as I can. For me, that is one of the best feelings in the world. I love being with my children, of course. They are constantly making me laugh. They act crazy all the time. They're wild. They need leashes. But we have so much fun together. And we just keep it outdoors for the most part.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have a really healthy lifestyle, for lack of a better word, just being outside a lot and just what you've really incorporated into just feeding them the way that you do and feeding yourself because um, you have to take care of yourself first, right? So you're eating these things too. You mentioned that that's really helpful for, I'm sure, brain energy and just physical energy. So, because
Absolutely.
yeah, I've been
I was
trying to
going to say
teach myself.
absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was going to say, like, your videos, they're very encouraging for me, reminding myself to eat and things like that. Um, I love to have those reminders every day because you need to keep reminding yourself. I mean, let's not get it twisted. I'm not healthy by any means, I'm wild. I drink a lot of wine, so I
Yeah.
try to, where I can,
Yeah.
make choices that help me, sustain. But yeah, so yeah, as long as we try to consciously do it and just keep everything in moderation, you can stay healthy for the most part that way. But yeah, you do have to constantly remind yourself. It is nice to have people like you out there who are willing to put those reminders out there every day.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that those are helpful and I kind of share just what's relevant to me at the time. Because I think that we're not just whatever our business is, because there's a lot that goes into all of that, into what makes us who we are. And so I'm trying to teach myself how to take care of myself. And that sounds really weird, probably coming from somebody who's, you know, I'm 30. I feel like I should know that already, but okay. Moving forward, trying to teach myself how to, okay, so I eat at these times and I'm trying to drink water. It's hard.
Yeah,
It's not something
yeah,
that it's
it
like
really is.
I always have wanted to have these healthy habits, but it's like making that mental shift over into, oh, so I have to have these daily habits that I'm actually doing
Right,
to make that a
right.
reality. So, yeah.
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 Yeah, it's not silly at all. I think the majority of us struggle with that. It's difficult and we're living in a weird time. I don't want to play that card too much, but this is a weird time. We're, in a pandemic. That's weird. Everything has changed.
Yeah.
The restaurant industry has changed. People aren't going out to just casually have lunch anymore. Everybody wants to make it an event and make it worth their time if they're going to
Mm,
risk getting COVID. But yeah, it's a
okay.
constant reminder. And being cooped up, you have to you have to actively recognize how you're feeling every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really think about that's a good question I want to ask you about how the pandemic and COVID has really affected the food industry because you have an inside look at that. So you said people
Yeah.
are wanting to do big events as opposed to just a casual lunch. So do you think that I know like you launched this right in the middle of it, right? But do you think that this is going to be just how things are now, or do you think what are your thoughts about that?
Um, I think about it pretty often. You know, it really is just going to depend on whether I think one of the biggest issues with our local restaurant industry is the staffing issues. The past few times, I'm not going to name any names, but the past few times I've gone out to nice restaurants that typically we love here locally, it's just been terrible. And it's because there's people that aren't trained to be serving fine dining, running the show. So it's difficult. But there's a shift in the workplace also going on with wages and pay and things like that. So if that doesn't level out, then I do think that the industry will change for good, along with more and more delivery options. You can get almost anything delivered now. And why would you want to go out and risk, why would you want to deal with crazy people? Why would you want to risk getting COVID just to go have a meal? I might as well just order that in. And I think starting my business, that was also really helpful for me because I immediately offered free delivery to everyone, so that, everybody was like, definitely, we're going to order charcuterie. We have never had charcuterie delivered, so that was beneficial to me. And then I think myself, and a few of my friends and colleagues, we are going out less and less because the experience is not what we're paying for. And it's unfortunate. So I have, a lot of the local places are just doing, tons and tons of events. So it is more of like an experience. Like the wine cellar, they have a brat and German wine tasting tonight. So that's like a whole experience instead of just, oh, well, maybe I'll pick, and mash off the menu. They're going to serve all German wines. You're going to have yummy broth, that stuff. So people are more willing, like, okay, well, that is worth $75 instead of me going to a restaurant and being served by teenagers that are going to, that are blasting their music in the background or, doing whatever, but I'm paying $85 for this steak that you're serving me. That's wild to think about.
It is.
So I do see, I don't know that it will move back, with all the delivery options and events and stuff like that. I think the change is going to be permanent. I'm not sure where it will end up, but I don't think it will go back to the way it was.
So you offered free delivery. Is that something, do you still deliver to people or?
Yes, I still do delivery. Unfortunately, due to the gas issues, I have had to implement a delivery fee outside of my 10-mile radius. But I still do delivery. I don't do as much, but it's booking issues really. So pickup, you can get me most any time that you would want. But delivery is a little bit more difficult. Again, trying to employ a driver.
Yeah, it feels like a really unstable time. Like you kind of alluded to, just it is a weird time to be living in, and it feels very stressful and just like inflation alone. And it's because things, so your ingredients that you have to buy for the boards and all this stuff, like it's all gotten a lot more expensive. And so do you find that people are understanding of that you have to charge for, like, account for this, or how has that been going?
Actually, it's gone really well. I have had maybe one comment about my pricing through the whole issue, or through my whole tenure at this point. So nobody has said anything. I will say the individual boards have slowed down on sales a little bit, and that is probably because there was a pretty significant increase on them. But for example, like when I first started doing this, the grapes I was buying were $1.98 a pound, and now I'm lucky to catch them at $3 to $4 a pound. So, that's a huge increase. And it's really crazy. The meat is actually the cheapest thing. Yeah. So what I was saying was that, like, the meat is actually the cheapest thing on my board now. When I first started, the product cost wise, the meat was the most expensive, and now it's shifted significantly. So the fruit is what is really expensive. And obviously the products, the spoons, the jellies, the jams, all that, it's just up, 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 up.
Mm-hmm. Why is the meat the cheapest thing? Do you know why that is?
Well, I'm not really sure, other than a lot of it was probably already made. That would be my guess. Because those things cure, a lot of them cure for significant lengths of time. So maybe we'll see an increase. There's a few meat prices that I have had increase, but not like fruit and not like cheese.
Do you think the fruit is so expensive because it's maybe not locally grown, or because a lot of times I buy fruit and I see it's from other places almost always?
Yeah, that could be it. I know that we're having a lot of shipping issues, and I mean, if you're
Mm-hmm.
shipping fruit and it gets caught up somewhere, then it's going to go bad. So they're probably,
Yeah.
losing a lot of product at this point. If the shipping issues are still going on like they were earlier this year. At one point, we couldn't even get brie from Boar's Head locally, and towards the end of last year, I was getting very nervous because their cooler was basically empty every week. That was scary. We couldn't get goat cheese. We couldn't get brie. The brie was held up in customs or something like that. So yeah, if that were to happen to fruit, that fruit's going to go bad before it ever even gets to us. So I imagine they're having a lot of product loss at this point.
Yeah, that's hard. That's unfortunate. This is maybe a weird question to ask, but it just came to mind. So the boards that the charcuterie items are on, I don't know if that's the way you say it, but like the boards, the type of wood, does that affect the taste of the food, or does it not really matter?
It could. If it wasn't, if the wood wasn't cured, it could definitely seep flavor in there. Maybe not so much on the meat side because of that curing that's already happened to it. But yeah, I mean, like cheese could definitely absorb that flavor. For me, cheese is it's almost hard to eat now because everybody's storing it in plastic. And when I open it up, all I taste is plastic.
Yeah.
So that's difficult to overcome. I let my cheese bloom for a little while before I actually put it on the board. So hopefully it'll get rid of that plastic flavor for my customers. Although most of them don't notice it. I just have a really sensitive palate. But yeah, and let me get you, I'll show you one of the things that I do for my regular board.
Yeah.
So this is what I normally serve, like when I do my deliveries. It's a disposable palm leaf plate.
Okay,
palm leaves, or there's like bamboo ones. Yeah. So it's eco-friendly, completely biodegradable. And then you just, I put everything here and I put it in a box and deliver it. And then they can just throw it away when they're done. I also have some real wood boards that I offer for rental or purchase. So this is going to be black walnut. It's a really, really nice wood. But no, it's
really pretty.
Yeah, I love it. It's so pretty. I love black walnut. It's such a pretty wood. But it's finished and it's been cured, so it's totally safe. It's not going to leach anything into the food or the taste.
So you were saying so you were saying that the wood has to be cured in order for the flavor, or not the flavor, maybe the fibers of the wood not to affect the taste of the food. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I would say that. And I mean, most woods aren't really potent. I mean, if you use like cedar, that would definitely get your food. I would say. But yeah, and some people use just raw wood, and that's fine too. Wood is like inherently antimicrobial. So like when you put raw meat or something on it, once it dries, that bacteria is actually going to be killed because the wood removes any moisture that's there to grow continue the growth of it. So that's a fun fact for the day. I wouldn't recommend
really
putting
cool.
raw chicken on your wood board though, and then eating after it. But
Yeah.
you probably could.
You could.
So yeah, the woodworking itself is a really interesting process. I'm not super educated about it, but there's several ways to cure a board. You can put food safe epoxy on it. You could do mineral oil only. A lot of people serve like butcher block oil, which is basically just mineral oil. And then again, some people just leave their wood completely void of any kind of coverage. So it really is, personal preference, and also the way you cure a board is going to determine whether or how long the life of the board is. So like something like this will last, 50, 60 years, if it's taken care of properly. It could last longer for all I know.
How do you make those yourself, or how do you get the boards?
These are from a company out in Decatur called Reclaim Renaissance. They used to be Renaissance Reclaimed, and they were a huge company from what I understand out in Decatur for a long time. And now they're kind of revamping, and they have new ownership, and they are, I think, really just kicking off right now. But yeah, they made me a ton of these boards, so that I could serve some of my customers with them and just kind of get their name out. I put them on my tables occasionally too, just for added depth and dimension. But yeah, their name is Reclaim Renaissance. They're good people.
That's really cool. I like the handle on it. I like how it's shaped. It looks very ergonomically practical while also being beautiful. So I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. And you could hang it in your kitchen if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you kind of loop your finger in there so you don't drop your food.
Yeah, because I would
they have
the person that dropped it if it didn't have a handle.
Yeah. And they have a lot of amazing wood too. Like they have magnolia wood from the governor's house mansion in Georgia. I mean, they are really high end stuff. They make really nice stuff. I'm talking like ceiling to floor wood tables. I mean, just gorgeous stuff.
Oh wow, I'll have to check that out. I didn't know that place existed. So thanks for sharing about
really
that.
Cool. Yeah, they have a showroom. It's really cool. If you like that stuff, smells like wood. Smells like a wood shop.
Yeah. So is there anything else, as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or talk about?
Yeah, if it's okay, I'd like to make a couple plugs. Okay, awesome.
Please
cool.
do. Please do.
The first person I want to plug is Peculiar Preserves. She's out of the Low Mill, and she makes the most amazing jams and jellies. She has some tinctures too now. I'm going to use those at my brunch this weekend. I'm so excited. This little flavor right here is blueberry bourbon jam, and she has another flavor that I love so much called blackberry and white Zinfandel. So she does boozy preserves also. Oh my gosh, it is so delicious. Wow. And then at Hive of the Rising Sun, who is local honey. So we're gearing up for allergy season. She has some amazing honey. We serve it at all our classes. Everybody loves it. But we've got little honey bears, and we've got little honey hives and things like that. They are just amazing women who have amazing products, and of course I want to support them. So everybody, Low Mill, and then Hive of the Rising Sun, local honey.
Okay, yeah, and if you want to send me those links, I'll put them in the description, as well as links to your business, of course. Well, thank you so much for thanks so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. I hope I did okay.
Yeah, you did awesome.